She was sad and mostly alone after death of her mother. On that day, her grievance took a toll when her own class fellows started killing her good friends. This forced the devil in her to become the hunter of evil humans.
Anna, where are you?
Welcome back to Paramount Recaps. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. The story revolves around Zoe Hull, a high school senior dealing with the recent death of her mother from cancer. She's pulled away from everyday life, struggling to cope with her grief. One day, Zoe and her dad, Todd, go hunting. They shoot a buck, but it doesn't die right away. It's suffering, and Todd tries to teach Zoe about mercy. But she takes matters in her own hands by smashing the animal's head with a rock to end its pain. Todd is shocked, thinking her cold reaction is tied to the trauma of losing her mom. Later, Zoe has breakfast, during which she imagines talking to her mom. She knows it's odd, but these conversations help her feel better, so she keeps them to herself. Before heading to school, her best friend Lewis picks her up. On their way, some school jerks run them off the road. As they wait for the car to start, Zoe spots a classmate named Chris acting strange in a nearby field, but brushes it off since Chris is known for being the school's outcast. At school, it's senior prank day, but Zoe and Lewis find it pretty lame.
Hey, what is this, middle school?
Mrs. Jane, Zoe's chemistry teacher, notices Zoe has changed since her mom passed and tries to talk to her about it. Zoe avoids the topic. Later, she finds a prom invite from Lewis in her locker. The idea of going to prom freaks her out, and the thought of turning him down makes her feel worse. During lunch, she tries to sidestep the issue, but Lewis insists he's asking her as a friend, so they won't spend prom night alone. Zoe, clearly uncomfortable, leaves for the restroom. While all this is happening, the town is rocked by several harmless explosions that keep the police and emergency services busy. It's clear these aren't just accidents. In the restroom, Zoe sees Anna, a school bully, stashing something in a vent. But when she checks, the vent is empty. Things take a dark turn when a van crashes through the school cafeteria, hitting a student. Chris, the same guy Zoe saw earlier, steps out of the van and shoots the injured student. He's joined by Anna, who turns out to be his sister, as well as Kip and their leader, Tristan. They had planned the town explosions as a distraction and now intend to turn the school into a war zone. They immediately assert control, killing a few people to establish dominance. Just as Zoe is about to leave the restroom, an injured girl stumbles in, begging for help. Zoe, in shock, watches as the girl dies, realizing something terrible is happening. She sneaks out and overhears the shooters. Tristan announces to the students that they are now hostages and must follow his orders. He singles out a bully from the crowd, and without hesitation, Chris shoots him. Tristan, while planning to kill the bully himself, tells Chris to stay calm and only act when instructed. Knowing the restroom might be searched, Kip heads over to check it out. Sensing danger, Zoe climbs into the vent to avoid being caught. She crawls through the ductwork, trying to find an exit. Meanwhile, Tristan orders a girl to call her mom, making sure the police are notified. After the call, Tristan lets everyone call their families as they tearfully say their goodbyes.
This is the last time you hear my voice.
Zoe's escape through the vents is interrupted when she falls through the ceiling of the kitchen. The noise alerts Chris, but a quick-thinking cafeteria worker steps in and takes a bullet, saving Zoe. Though shaken, Zoe gathers herself. Meanwhile, Tristan calls the school receptionist, revealing the horrific situation. She immediately contacts security and the principal. Zoe manages to slip out of the school through the kitchen's back door, warning a group of classmates about the chaos inside. Tristan forces the hostages to start live-streaming the attack, threatening more deaths if the platforms censor their videos. He wants the world to witness what's happened. As the live streams kick off, Tristan introduces himself, but the principal and security guard interrupt. Instead of being intimidated, Tristan questions whether they understand his motives. The principal recalls Tristan's recent academic and behavioral issues and how he predicted Tristan would never amount to anything. Tristan shoots and kills the principal in cold blood.
No!
But lets the security guard go. Since Lewis's live stream gets the most attention, Tristan makes him the cameraman, putting him at the front.
How many do you have?
Just went over 1,000.
Zoe, meanwhile, tries to warn each classroom about what's going on. Some teachers blow her off, thinking it's part of the prank, but others take her seriously. To speed things up, Zoe pulls the fire alarm. Unfortunately, Anna, who's stationed in the electrical room, kills a security guard and shuts off the system, silencing the alarm. With the fire alarm off, students return to their classrooms. The receptionist announces a lockdown over the PA system, telling everyone to stay put. As she makes the announcement, the first wave of police arrives. News outlets begin covering the event, but Tristan demands that the live streams be shown on national. Zoe reaches the receptionist's desk just in time to avoid an explosion set by the attackers, which kills several people nearby. The explosion was meant to cut off any communication, though it went off later than planned. After everything goes down, Zoe sees a vision of her mom, who remarks on how crazy things have gotten. While Zoe's in a daze, she spots Anna and plays dead to avoid being noticed. Once Anna leaves, Zoe continues trying to warn the other students by knocking on a classroom door. Anna hears the noise and comes back, leading to a chase where Zoe gets shot in the leg. They end up in a teacher's room filled with prank balloons. Zoe hides, waiting for the right moment to strike, and manages to take down Anna after a tough fight. Meanwhile, the cops dig into Tristan's background and track down his house, where they find his mom dead on the couch, clearly for a few days. It's obvious Tristan killed her. Back at the school, Tristan leaves Chris in charge while he heads to a Spanish class. The teacher begs him to stop, but Tristan makes her strip on camera for his live stream audience. Around this time, Zoe's dad, Todd, hears about the chaos at the school and speeds off to help her. Outside the school, things are tense with worried parents, reporters, and cops everywhere. Inside, Chris is starting to hear voices, the same ones that convinced him to join Tristan's plan in the first place. Driven by them, he starts shooting at the cops, drawing Tristan back to the cafeteria. Tristan brings the Spanish teacher and her students with him. Not long after, Kip spots Zoe and chases her, shooting as he goes. Their chase leads them to a hallway, where Zoe uses a fire extinguisher to knock Kip out. She drags him to the auditorium, handcuffs him to a seat, and then starts talking to her mom again in her head. Kip wakes up and sees her talking to herself, realizing she's kind of like him. They chat, and Zoe learns that Kip's involvement stems from a humiliating middle school incident where he was stripped in front of everyone. She challenges his thinking, suggesting maybe the laughter wasn't all about mocking. She points out that killing innocent people won't erase his past, and might just make it worse. This hits Kip hard, shaking his belief in Tristan's mission. Zoe grabs Kip's gun and runs into Mrs. Jane, who's leading her class out of the building. At first, the teacher thinks Zoe is part of the attackers because of the gun, but Zoe quickly clears things up. Mrs. Jane and her class make it out safe, but Zoe stays behind to help the other students. One of the students tells Todd that Zoe has been helping students escape, but she's still inside. Todd feels torn but proud. Meanwhile, Tristan realizes someone's been helping the students escape. He calls Anna's phone, but Zoe answers, and Tristan learns that Zoe's the one causing him trouble and that she killed Anna. Furious, he gives her 5 minutes to show up in the cafeteria or he'll start killing hostages. And to prove his point, he shoots a random girl. Watching the horror unfold on the live stream, Todd grabs his hunting rifle, ready to rescue his daughter. Zoe returns to Kip, who's now full of regret, and convinces him to help her. She trusts him enough to hand him a gun and heads to the cafeteria. Tristan is shocked to find out Zoe is behind his problems, remembering her from school. They face off, and Kip shows up to back Zoe up. Tristan finds it amusing, thinking Kip was always too weak to be part of his plan. A shootout follows, and Kip ends up getting killed by Chris. In the chaos, Zoe and Lewis make a break for it, but Chris is right on their tail. After running for a while, Lewis reveals he's been hit. Zoe helps him to an office, sits him down, and they share a kiss. She promises to go to prom with him before heading back out, hoping to draw Chris away. They end up in the chemistry lab, where Zoe sets off a small explosion by turning on the gas. The fire catches Todd's attention as he sneaks into the school from the woods. Chris corners Zoe and is about to finish her off when Todd shows up and shoots him dead. The cops arrive soon after, taking Todd into custody, but he's just happy Zoe is safe. Tristan tries to call Chris, but Zoe picks up. With her mom's voice pushing her on, Zoe takes a picture of Chris's body and sends it to Tristan, taunting him. Realizing his plan is falling apart, Tristan sets off an explosive in a van. During their phone call, Zoe tells him his whole mission is a failure, and her bravery has overshadowed whatever point he was trying to make. This hits Tristan hard, and he loses it. In a final act of desperation, he drags a hostage to the roof while leaving the others unattended. Zoe makes her way back to the cafeteria and sees a bomb that's about to go off. She manages to move the van outside just before it explodes, saving everyone. As she returns to the hallways, a SWAT officer pins her down. At that moment, her vision of her mom finally disappears, showing that Zoe has let go. She meets the sheriff, who acknowledges her bravery and learns that Tristan died in the blast. After a brief chat, Zoe reunites with her dad, who's in the back of a police car. He tells her how proud he is of her. While everyone else is being taken to safety, Zoe notices someone suspicious sneaking away. She grabs her dad's rifle and follows, watching as the person digs up some money from a creek. It turns out to be Tristan, who faked his death to escape. Zoe shoots him in the chest and walks away, leaving him to die slowly, just like the wounded buck from early. The final shot shows Zoe returning to the school to tell the sheriff what happened.